So here we are in 2010, and if we are to charge our booker with applying the Attitude Era recipe to these ingredients, the first thing we'd have to do is choose a roster, because we have two brands now. We've got SmackDown and we've got Raw. So let's start there.
Well, let's start first. What do you think the Attitude Era was?
I think the Attitude Era was the business, not even the business, WWE's realization that there had to be an element of shock to keep people coming back, because I don't think people were buying what we once did. And I'm guessing it's because maybe people became a little more cynical. Asshole was being said on TV on NYPD Blue, and we just weren't living the fantasy where T.L. Hopper or Leaf Cassidy was going to cut it. We had to dirty it up.
I disagree.
I had no doubt you would.
Yeah. The Attitude Era was not about being dirty. It was a matter of raising the level of sophistication of the performance. The only thing that has changed and will always change in wrestling, wrestling has been, always will be, a mirror of society. And if you don't like wrestling, then you don't like society. It's just it's the only thing that people relate to. Back to what we were originally talking about the physicality. The reason that wrestling is so character driven, the psychology is so character driven in North America, is because that's the only thing that people relate to. In Japan, it's more physically based. Why? National sport is what? Judo. Because everybody plays judo, so therefore everybody has a physical relationship to being thrown, to having submissions put on, being choked out. Different relationship.
But am I wrong though?
No.
If I look at something like the losing the baby when she's knocked off the apron, and
because that was
Melanie
more.
Pillman.
Those were more sophisticated stories, and they were more real, and they were more, as a result, were more relatable to the audience, and that's always been the case in wrestling. What happened was that there was a curve where, again, Vince Russo understood the level of sophistication of the audience, because he was within that level where Vince was completely detached. And for a period of time, Vince was still in his, well, T.L. Hopper, Leaf Cassidy, Duke the Dumpster Droese, that the character, the character, the wrestling, the wrestler was the fact that they were a wrestler was a secondary aspect. It was the fact that we were a plumber, a trash man, whatever. That was more prevalent. A millionaire, Ted DiBiase, as opposed to him being a wrestler, where it became more realistic as far as a wrestler, and the reactions became more realistic, which made it therefore more relatable. If it were real, and I always say that, not from a standpoint of if it were a shoot, that there are two different concepts. If it were real, those circumstances, those situations would probably occur, and in some degree or form or another. Now, granted, they were going to be built up to a much greater degree and dramatized more, because it's wrestling and has to be a bigger forum, but in real life, there are real heels, and there are real baby faces. And even in real sports, there are real heels and real baby faces. What dictates what a heel or a baby face is not how you act, it's circumstantial. And in the Attitude Era, that was more about circumstance, and more circumstantially driven, because the audience understood that more. It wasn't just white hat, black hat. There are always heels and baby faces. It's just more of the circumstances that created those. And even when I wrote and booked TV and booked the promotion in OVW, and if I can pat myself on the back, I want to point out that in my period of time that I was there, we went from 2 or 3 house shows a month to doing 4 or 5 house shows a week. We went from the live attendance average around 50 people to around 300. And we went to, from their annual event at Six Flags, from only doing 6 a year to doing 14, because the attendance was so great. We went from where OVW never was at the top of the list ratings-wise in TV, to beating even the local news every week. So, say what you want, but it worked. But it was all circumstantially driven. Everything I did was all circumstantially driven. And the Attitude Era would be the same thing. It was, and if you were a real person, you'd say asshole, You'd say I'm going to kick your ass. You'd say, you'd say words that were quote unquote not the right thing to say, based on the FCC maybe, but if it were real, unless you're Mother Teresa, you're going to say fuck, you're going to say shit, goddamn, and especially in an emotionally charged environment where physical violence is occurring. Tell me somebody that's not going to say some kind of curse word. And it was a matter of making it more realistic and more sophisticated to a more sophisticated audience. If you think a 10-year-old now is probably at a far greater level of sophistication than what a 25-year-old was 10 years ago, because of their access to information, through cable television, through internet, etc. Mm-hmm. It just continues to grow. So as a result, the wrestling should too.
There's still no excuse for Mae Young's breast coming out on television.
Nope, they were softballs and wet socks. Really? And, so everybody knows, they were a prosthetic.
I did know
so
that.
Her real breasts weren't even that saggy.
You know this with any degree of certainty?
Not that I saw it, but
okay.
It was told to me that they were actually quite firm. They weren't like a spaniel's ears. You'd be surprised that, you'd expect that what would be between her nipples would be her navel, but apparently that wasn't the case. So she held together pretty well.
Good for Mae.
And she's still going, too.
Yeah, that's something.
She's a beast. I bet back in her day she'd crack you like a coconut.
Yeah, probably, sure.
Yeah, I'd shiver with anticipation, too.